Right, we're rolling. On this podcast, we'll be talking about different areas of business and all things marketing. My name is Dave Doyle.
And I'm Dave Alton. This is Social Antics, another marketing podcast.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Social Antics, week 23. Dave, how are you?
Would you not come up with a more interesting intro? Would you? Every week it's the same thing over. Hi guys, welcome to Social Antics.
You come up with something better.
I'm not the introduction person. That's your job.
You pawned that job off.
I pawned off on that, yeah, absolutely.
What do you look after each week?
All the research, all the news items.
That's your job.
And then I pass it back to you then for editing.
Very good, very good. Good week?
I had an interesting week. I had a fight with the post office. I swear to God, I had a fight with the post office.
Down the list on what I'd expect you.
No, I had a fight with the post office. So a company that I'm working with, we posted...
Post office or postman?
No, post office.
All right, okay.
The institution, not the agents
right,
of the
actually
institution.
on post. Like,
yeah, oh, absolutely, yeah. So
straight
no, we
office.
can't name the post. It could be any post office.
Oh, okay.
But posted a group of letters to a group of companies, as you do during the normal course of doing the business.
You not know an email.
No, a letter is more personable. Plus, we didn't have the email addresses. So so basically, sent out the letters. Got an email off on post saying your letters are too heavy. Now, come on, your letters are too heavy. Come fucking like they're letters. Like, I mean, how heavy could they possibly be? So basically, saying that, Joe, you need to pay us, was £100 or whatever the story was, because of the extra weight of the letters.
Must be pretty heavy letters.
Oh, very heavy letters. Only the finest.
Loads of brown envelopes.
Only the fine. What's the TOG value equivalent in paper?
I don't know because I use email.
That's grand. But anyway,
environmentally friendly and all that.
So rang up the lovely woman from the post office, and I can't remember her name. Susan, we'll call her. So Susan answered the phone.
She could be Karen by the end of this.
She got yeah. But I said, what's the story? She explained it's overweight, blah, blah, blah. I was like, fucking wasn't, but I'm not arguing with you over £100. Can I pay it over the phone? She said, no, you can't pay it over the phone. I was like, right, you're not paying it over the phone. So how would you like me to pay this weight levy that you are placing on this organisation? And she said, you've got to buy stamps and post them to the post office. Stop. She wanted me to fucking buy a fucking group of fucking stamps, put them in a fucking envelope, and post stamps to the fucking post office.
So you cost yourself another postage stamp by the end of it.
I swear to God, I was
That's
there
a great way to rack up business, actually.
What sort of insane Orwellian dystopian reality are we living in, where the only way to solve this crisis was to post stamps to the post office? So I said, right, I'm not doing that. Is there another option here? And she said, oh, you can send a postal order. I know what the fuck a postal order was. I've never heard of it in my life. I know what it was. I was like, is this some sort of like telegram type scenario? So basically it's, you go into the post office and you basically tell them to write a check on your behalf, and someone can pass a check. I swear, an ordeal I had, and that was only last fucking Wednesday.
Moral of the story?
The letters got posted anyway.
Okay.
We got business off them.
You pay back the £100
at least. Yeah, paid back the £100 out multiple times over.
It's madness when you are dealing with the old style companies like that, like, and it's just stuck in their ways.
Well, that's not old
style. But
that's
like,
fucking ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
Post stamps to the post office, like.
But while you're in there, surely you could have just paid off the £100. Like,
no, I tried. I couldn't. They wouldn't let me. They had
had to go to a specific...
No, hang on here now. It gets fucking even worse. So I wasn't even going to go into this, but now that we're deep in conversation about marketing, apparently. So
we'll tag on
the post was put into a post box in Cork and was going to a number of Cork businesses. That post was then sent up to fucking Portlaoise because the Cork sorting office is closed at the moment. So... not only, it would have been quicker for me to deliver it myself, to be honest with you. Between it going up to Portlaoise, coming back, oh, I could have, fuck it, never again anyway. Never again.
Get the emails next time.
I'll get the emails the next time. Nah, I couldn't believe it.
A good week apart from that.
Interesting strategy though, because people won't open an email. They'll think it's spam, or you won't get someone's personal email.
Everyone likes getting a letter.
People open a letter. You won't leave a letter if it's got a stamp on it.
Or in this case, the front of it?
A stamp with a big stamp on it, an actual like a rubber stamp saying unpaid mail.
Now you're talking about post. For the first time yesterday, we'll keep on the subject while we're on it. Yesterday, actually, I noticed for the first time in a long time, I got a load of spam, flyers in the post box. It's the first time I've noticed in a long time.
Junk mail.
A local shipper, some fellas selling windows.
They work, to be fair.
They're straight in the bin.
Oh, no, they work. I like them.
The amount of the one that gets me the whole time, I can't remember which charity it is your Simon St. Vincent de Paul. It's one of those charities, and they send out. I remember it was actually about a year or two ago. I was kind of noticing them, and it was like 2, if not 3 times a year, to win a car or be entered in some draw. But like this was a printed, branded envelope. A good lot of pages inside in it. I think it was either a paid envelope back or whatever it was.
Because it's advertising
exactly.
When you open
but
it.
I'm like, as a charity, how much money have you put into this campaign? Like, it's not.
Yeah, but if it works.
But it's not coming to me because I signed up to something. This is going to every household.
Oh yeah, but sure, you can do mail drop campaigns. Those are very popular.
But like, I just don't think they work at all. Once that sort of stuff comes into my house, gone.
No, some of that stuff, I'm telling you now, you underestimate the public, and I'm not going to say their willingness to give to charity because it's not part of it, but they think that they can win that car. They think that they can have their hair flowing as they're driving down the dual carriageway in their Nissan Micra, or whatever year it was. I'm telling you, people enter in raffles.
No, I don't. But you done one a few years ago, but it wasn't a raffle. It was more so.
No, it was a raffle. We raffled a house.
But it wasn't. But you didn't gather that way in terms of you didn't gather people to put. You actually like advertised online and stuff.
Oh yeah, we used.
You didn't do any traditional kind of stuff, did you?
Oh no, we did billboards and we did bus shelters and that type of thing as
well.
We did radio. Did a lot of radio. Look, it's very cynical and all this, but look, ultimately you want to sell raffles for houses. What are you going to do? Advertise on daft.ie to people who are desperately clamouring for property. Like, do you know what I mean? It was a very manipulative, but look, that's the game that you're playing. And I went to good cause, went to 3 local sports organisations, raised like £750,000 quid or something like that.
Shout out.
I'm bad. Oh, absolutely. Anyone raffling a house, come get me. Anything else, forget about it.
I actually think I've seen one recently. Is it going into Carrigaline or something like that? There's a big raffle for local charity. I think they're doing a house or something, a car or something like that. But once again, you mentioned billboards there. To me, when there's so many in a row or whatever, they're just washed. I don't.
They need to stand out. It's like think of it as products on a shelf. If they're all the same, you don't pay attention to them. But if you stand it out properly, it will stand out. So. Like if you looked at the campaign that we were running at the time, you'd ask them like, who are we going to be next? Like, and you look at the colours, black, grey, blah, and then we had a big green billboard with "Win a House" on it. Yeah. People will pay attention to it. Like, it does work. Like, but it's going back to again classic marketing 101. If you take one lesson from marketing, it's attention economy, attention. And when you're talking about attention, it's not are you exciting? It's are you exciting in comparison to what's next year, and that's what grabs attention, you know.
When you say attention economy,
how did we get onto this from the post office?
I don't know. I haven't a clue. You mentioned attention economy though. That was brought back. I was in a talk a few years ago about it was Wide Eye Media, so they look after all the cinemas in Ireland.
They were them actually. Good
and it was interesting. They were kind of giving the stats, but it was the one line that stuck with me for the whole thing was that it's the only uninterrupted form of media. Because you're not meant to be doing anything but watching the screen, and you're literally
eating popcorn.
Eating popcorn is the only thing that's going to
Shifting
distract you.
Next year.
Leave that to you. You want to tell any stories?
No, I'm not 16 anymore, or whatever age you do that at.
So that was interesting.
Gotta be one of those episodes.
It is. Drive it on. What have you got news this week? We bring it back professional.
So Google have enhanced their partnership with Shopify, which I think is quite interesting. So Shopify currently have around 1.7 million merchants on their platform. People who don't know, Shopify is back-end e-commerce provider, basically. Really, a lot better, I think, than WooCommerce and all those. A lot more user-friendly, a lot more analytical capability and reporting functionality in particular. And as well as that too, it's and I don't know this because I'm not a designer, but a lot of designers who I would talk to say it's easier to build on. You have a lot more flexibility in terms of what your output is and what your website looks like at the end of it, basically. But in a nutshell, they're after unveiling or Google are after unveiling what they call shopping graph technology, which basically uses artificial intelligence to monitor the flux of products, sellers, brands, and reviews and inventory information on a site, as well as makes insight related to the data in and of itself. And I suppose this is something that you would kind of constantly talk about, where there's been a huge reliance in recent years of using the Facebook pixel to retarget consumers based on their activity on social media. Now, as Apple has started to curb our ability to target iOS users in particular, it goes back to, what's the comment that you make to my students, that wise old saying?
I'm glad you listened.
I do, I listen sometimes.
Is it the don't build your house on rented ground?
Yeah, exactly. So you don't own your social media platform, whereas you own your website.
We talk about Mark Zuckerberg, we talk about any of them, that they could just pull the plug in the morning if they took a notion.
Or in this particular case, Tim Cook pulling the life support on Facebook in many ways.
The internet will be broken. Basically, yeah. So, like, if you think about it in that kind of simplistic terms, whatever happens, their businesses, they can shut. Yes, obviously, look, your whatever you're hosting, your emails or websites, these can shut down as well, but just emails are more secure. So that was kind of the point, is you own your website, you own your emails, you own your email database. You don't really own your Facebook page, your Instagram page, and all these can go, they can be hacked, something can go wrong a lot.
High return on investment as well with
emails.
Emails.
Exactly. So you can target a little bit more with those. Obviously, look, the whole thing of we dealt with the whole thing of GDPR a couple of years ago, and a lot of drop off rates in databases and stuff like that. But I think, look, realistically, it wasn't the worst thing in the world, because it gave companies a chance to put a bit more campaign out there to build them back up again, and they were a bit more cautious. But also it left true followers sometimes, in a sense, got rid of a lot of spammy stuff.
But a lot of companies still, in my experience anyway, American companies in particular, now I know that like they have to comply with GDPR if they're operating in Europe, but a lot of them, because they weren't in Europe as such, aren't paying attention to the amount of stuff that I've signed up to that I've unsubscribed for them still getting spammed from is absolutely ridiculous, but I think it's an interesting point, because especially now, like, I'd work with a number of clients, and we've seen a decline in conversions via Facebook advertising just even the last 2 weeks. I know that's not a great barometer for how things are going to go or how things are going to work, but just in the immediacy, it's becoming a bit more difficult to use that platform. So this idea of Google, which is again the world's biggest advertising platform, partnering with Shopify to enhance that advertising capability is going to be very, very interesting. And even the Facebook integrations with Shopify are terrible. Like they're very, very weak in comparison to Facebook's ad platform in and of itself. So this idea of enabling marketers and you will notice, listeners, that I have a very, very hoarse throat at the moment. But the idea of you having the ability to target your users who operate on your website is really, really important, I think.
No, definitely. Look, Shopify is a huge platform. We use it and work, and as you said, there's loads of capabilities in the back end of it. I don't know about as you said, the kind of the whole design element of it. Like, it's kind of like, and you kind of pick your theme, but obviously there's, you can code in stuff and all on top of it. But great platform, and anyone that's going down the route of selling online, definitely looking at it.
100%. And even little other things that with this Google technology is going to be very, very interesting in terms of the way SEO is going to change. So Google are after, again, based on AI, whereby if you take a photo of something, or you watch a video, or you do whatever, you can now upload that to Google, and it will search for e-commerce sites that sell the items in the photograph, which again is very, very, because I'd often, let's say, if I was browsing on I don't know what I'd be browsing, but let's say I was browsing on YouTube or something, I might screenshot something and then totally forget about it. The idea that now is logged in Google and they give you a list of sites is kind of interesting. It's a different way of doing it. Now, gives a lot more power to Google, which isn't necessarily something that we want, but ultimately it's an interesting...
So it's all well and good, all these updates and things coming in, and we talk about as much as we can here, but the thing is, if businesses, like a business might have their their platform, their Shopify account, or whatever, Facebook store, but unless they're keeping up with all these changes and making the little adaptations to keep up with the way things are going, they're going to be left behind. They're not going to reap the rewards of these apps or these updates coming out. Oh yeah, of course, yeah. I mean, that's where it is tough for businesses, right? Because it's not their job to keep up with changing technology. Like, even like if you're it is though. Like if you're running a business and you're running the business online, you need to be on top of it. There's no point, as we always talk. There's no
Oh
point.
no, it is, but I mean that's like saying that if you're running a business, you need to be up to date on being an accountant. Like, do you know what I mean? You need to be able to read numbers. You need to be able to, but you're not preparing the accounts. Like the idea of expecting a small business owner to understand the in depths of search engine optimization is, I think,
Not
a bit
the in
unfair.
depths, but be able to keep up with what can make a bit of bang for his buck, we'll say.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. No, you need to know where things are going, trends and stuff like that. Yeah, of course.
No. This week for myself, I was just.
Oh, you did research, did you? Fair play.
I have one.
In between his other podcast and caring for his dogs, he does a bit of research every now and then. Go on, what have you got for me?
It was more so down we were talking about social media there. It's more so down that route, so that there was the independent.co.uk had an article out that more than half of UK businesses don't use social media to promote themselves.
No surprise there.
It's not really, and I suppose when you kind of dig down, you start thinking about, you know, your corner shops or your, you know, it's a lot of, it's a big umbrella when you just say businesses, you know. So, but it's just interesting that there is so many businesses out there that don't touch off it, you know, and don't think they need to even sometimes, you know.
I'd say there's a lot losing out, but I'd also say there's a lot of businesses using social media where it's completely useless for them.
True.
Again, corner shops, some takeaways. Like, unless you have, and I know we do the classic, everyone's got a story to tell. Yeah, but like a lot of stories are pretty bloody boring, like, yeah. You know. So no, there's some. Look, if your whole strategy is based on footfall, you're positioned in a place where people go after. Let's say you're a takeaway outside a certain nightclub or something like that. Yeah, you can do promotions and stuff like that, and maybe a little bit of advertising will drive a little bit of traffic. But ultimately, if you're on Just Eat, Deliveroo, Uber Eats, and they're doing all the promotion for you, and then you've got your footfall, you don't need to be on social media. You know, I think
but
that's
the thing is, when from dealing with those kind of platforms like Deliveroo or whatever, they won't touch you unless you give them some sort of a discount or deal. You know, they're not just going to promote you. So it's actually going to, in a sense, it's going to cost you money to advertise with those as well.
Oh, it does, but I mean, it's the classic. Okay, I go to Just Eat and I give them a bit of a discount, and they are going to advertise me versus me trying to build up a social media following, and we both know how hard that is to do. So again, I think there's a lot of there's a lot of emphasis placed on everyone needs to be on social media. No, you need to have a strategy, and you need to use the tools that are going to work best for you, and that may not involve social media.
It was interesting when they broke down. So there was they studied about 500 small to medium sized organisations. It was done by.
It's not a big sample, is it? In fairness,
in the UK, no, it's not. But it was done by Adzuma, who's a digital marketing platform, and their Rob Wass, who's their, I think Wass is his name, is their director and co-founder, and he basically said that we're currently experiencing digital transformation like no other. Therefore, digital marketing and online advertising is more important than ever, and we've experienced a global pandemic, and it's becoming significantly more important for businesses to move online. Like, we've talked about that a lot over the last, since we started this. Like, realistically, our first couple of episodes were all about that, about businesses transitioning online, preparing to go online due to the pandemic and stuff.
I hate that phrase.
Go on, what?
But digital transformation is as expedited to a level that we've never seen before. It is just, it's like, duh. It's like, I said it to, like, I say it to my students. I give them an essay every year. It's a critical marketing essay, critiquing the role of digital media in society, and I say, whatever you do not start off your essay with "the internet has been incredibly impactful on X, Y." I'm like, stop. Like, I know you've been sitting and like, just tell me something interesting. Don't be telling me about the invention of the fucking internet. Like, do you know what I mean? But anyway, hi students. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but and they listen, to be fair. But no, it is a point. I like these. Like, can we talk about something specific and not generalize everything where it's so meaningless?
Well, breaking down the stats they had, I was just going down the platforms, which is something we've talked about. It's 6 in 10 don't use Facebook. Okay, 4 in 10 don't use Instagram. 2 in 10 will only post on LinkedIn. 2 in 10 only use LinkedIn. You know, which I'm really enjoying LinkedIn at the moment, because I think it actually, if you start building it, I think more so than the other ones, but if you start being consistent on LinkedIn, it's actually doing. Now, obviously, it depends. Is your audience on LinkedIn? You know, we've talked about that before, but I think LinkedIn, if you're a bit consistent on LinkedIn, you can build up a decent bit of a following.
The algorithm is quite positive. It's quite favourable. Yeah, I agree.
But you just don't like anything that Microsoft are doing at the moment.
Oh, fucking Microsoft! I swear to God, like Teams, my God, burn it to the ground.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you on
and
Teams.
Zoom is going to go, like.
What do you mean it's going to go?
Zoom's going to go. Zoom can't survive that ecosystem. They're going up against Microsoft and they're going up against Google. They get annihilated.
What
in
we've
that
talked
ecosystem.
about here, Zoom, like, so I don't think many people, because they don't have the need for it, are paying for Zoom. So obviously they're relying to stay as a business on money, which they're not getting. Whereas Microsoft can piggyback on the other stuff or whatever.
Exactly.
It's not their sole income.
It's the portfolio, that's what it is.
But Zoom, as we've talked about before, it's become its own coin and phrase, kind of that
that's going to go as soon as the pandemic. And by the way, it's the best video platform by a distance. Okay, maybe they won't go, but their valuation at the moment is way too high. They're going to collapse, or they're going to get bought by Google or something like that. There is no way they can survive in an ecosystem where there's so many free video platforms. And all the rest of it. How did we get on from talking about corner shops to talking about Zoom being bought by Microsoft? We're all over the place tonight. We are all over the fucking place.
It's one of those nights. Driving on there, what else have you got?
Ironically enough, so moving on. So L'Oreal.
If you didn't say that, no, it would have been a good segue. Go on.
L'Oreal Professional have launched a new 7-episode online video series called, and my French is amazing, Run Le Hair Show, I presume is how
you sound more like your broadcast for TG Carrot. To say that again there.
Run Le Hair Show. But basically it's an episode that runs for 30 to 45 minutes on YouTube. It's available in 6 languages. And it's going to be especially impactful, or it's targeted towards Gen Z consumers, who, according to Kantar consumer study from 2020, 44% of whom make a purchase decision based on a recommendation from an influencer. Now, again, that's a generic stat that basically means nothing, because you're not influenced by buying bread.
Long form content, basically.
Long form content, yeah, based on the cultural impact of I think it's hairdressing, in terms of pop culture and stuff like that, which for me, as someone who doesn't have any hair, is utterly pointless. But in terms of,
I'm sure there's many people out there that might enjoy it.
I'm sure there's many people out there that will. But I mean, no, it goes back to what we've been saying for a while, in that the future of advertising and marketing, as there's been a growth in ad blockers, as people start blocking Facebook ads, as people can kind of disconnect from advertising needs to be embedded within pop culture, Netflix, Prime. People need to
looking at the platforms where people are consuming content.
Exactly, but it's not even it's not only get advertising or creating content on those platforms. It's creating what I would call searchable content. So people watch your content and then they come back because they want to see more of it, because they enjoy the content, not because it found them because of an ad or something. Now, again, a mix of all different types. We've spoken about this before, but I think it's interesting to see L'Oreal invest what's probably millions in a series like this, which is more kind of documentary based, looking at, again, the role of kind of hairdressing in terms of its cultural impact. So I think an interesting trend, and again, I really think this is where marketing is gonna, people who get this right will be the dominant brands for the next 20 years. I really think that any brand who can crack the Netflix code, shall we say, which is long form, and really impact upon consumers, those guys are going to win, as far as I'm concerned.
And where did you say they're hosting it?
YouTube. Yeah.
I think, I actually, surprisingly, I put for work, I actually put videos on YouTube recently, short form, like only your 10-second kind of story kind of content.
YouTube?
Yeah, put it up on YouTube. The reason why is we wanted to embed it into an email marketing campaign.
Oh yeah.
I put it up, and I think they're doing a bit of a feature on shorts.
They are YouTube are moving into short form content.
No push, no nothing. A little video that went up got within 2 days about 700-800 views.
Yeah,
which is phenomenal for the audience that we have on YouTube, which is not really used very much. So I do think YouTube is definitely a platform that's underutilized. We talked before about the whole, it's in the Google ecosystem, so it can be linked to so many different places.
It's another thing though. Why can't Google? Why can't they just stick to long form content? Stop trying to be TikTok.
Don't.
They are. That's what they're doing. TikTok short form content, Instagram stories, Twitter. Then you've got Facebook. Which one is Reels?
Reels is Instagram.
Reels is Instagram. Just stop.
It's great that the digital marketing lecturer had to ask me there.
To watch your good. I swear to God. But there's so many of them. It's ridiculous.
It's terrible. They're all research for work. Isn't it?
They're all stories to me.
It is. No, look, they're all copycats. TikTok really is the only one that to me in the last couple of years has outshone a lot since Snapchat.
It's brilliant. It's the best platform of all time.
It's actually, someone said to me during the week, I can't remember who it was. They said, "Have you got Viber?" And I was like,
that was your one from the post office, was it? I'll ring you on Viber. Send me up me stamps and then send me a fucking
no, I can't remember.
Send me a Tumblr afterwards.
I haven't heard of someone saying about Viber. Like, that seems to be totally gone. Like, it's amazing when you think
has to be.
These platforms, they're still going. How they're making money, how they're even have users, I don't know. But like, WhatsApp just blew them out of the water. Really.
Yeah, I was going to be interested to see what Bebo does.
Is that still going? Is it?
Bebo?
Well, as in, did they come back? Did they come back yet?
Oh no, they haven't. So my understanding is that they're inviting people on slowly, because I've heard a few people kind of saying,
I got elite
members. Yeah, we haven't been invited on yet, unsurprisingly.
If anyone wants to invite us on to
Bebo,
we'll give you a bit of love.
Back, yeah, could give you. Yeah, it could be. What was it? Your top 16?
I think you could choose or something. Couldn't you?
A widget.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Fucking hell! Oh, if there was anything, yeah.
Choose your skin.
To be fair, I criticise bloody Facebook for being bad to young people. Can you imagine the absolute pressure of having to pick your top 16? My God, who's going to be not in today's world? Like, oh my God,
it'd be fun, challenging. I actually put up. We talked. Was it last week? We talked about would you pay for Twitter? You know, the whole thing. A couple of weeks ago, Twitter Blue, I think, is what they're calling it. So basically, you can pay. I think it was something small, like $2, $3, $4. I think they're dollars or whatever a month to try and pay for it. You said you'd pay for it, didn't you?
Every day, 100%. Yeah. Well, no, I pay for it if they did certain things with the platform.
Yeah.
Got rid of the anonymous accounts, all that kind of stuff.
Cleaned it up, basically. Yeah. I put it up on our stories, actually, as a little poll. And I think we'll just say, so at the moment there, it's around 90% of people said they wouldn't pay for Twitter.
And that goes back to what I always say, in that the customer is never right.
Well, I think I said it to you before we started recording. You said put up what did you say?
Put up would they pay for social media? Yeah. And you get to say, oh no, I wouldn't pay for social media. So you're saying that if every social media account started charging, you disconnect. You disconnect.
Sure, you used to have to pay for, wasn't it 1 cent or something? You had to pay for WhatsApp or something when you first got, a euro or something.
You didn't.
There was something about, or maybe that was Viber.
No,
I don't use Viber.
That was your own. Yeah, no.
But that's interesting. Might put that one up now. About would you pay for social media, and if so,
but again, it's too broad. It's too generic, right? If like Twitter's a cesspit, right? All social media platforms are. That's what makes Twitter fun. No, but it gets like, I mean, it's a cesspit in terms of people just giving out for no reason.
Well, you were giving out during the week. You were rattling feathers during the week.
I was what?
Yeah, you were rattling feathers.
What did I do during the week?
No, you shared something there. You went on a bit of a rant on something there during the week. What was that about? Was it?
That was me giving out about the Irish Independent.
Oh, go on.
I was allowed to do that.
You give out on this platform.
So basically, a journalist
that won't be named
sent out, and I don't know what her name was. Sent out an article, basically saying that acts such as Blind Boy, member of the Rubber Bandits, shouldn't be commenting on issues around kind of mental health and stuff like that on the basis that they are not qualified to speak about these things. Now, to be fair, I have said on this podcast, and I've said it in my lectures and stuff like that, that there does need to be some sort of verification in terms of what people are allowed to speak about and stuff like that. However, there is a point whereby if you want ideas to spread and you want culture to shift and you want culture to change, then you need people who are very, very powerful communicators to basically spread particular new ideas and diffuse ideas, basically, in messages. And that's exactly what Blind Boy does, because he communicates issues around mental health in a way that really, really resonates with his audience, that people can unpack, they can understand. And he never claims to be a social media advocate. It's not like Gemma O'Doherty going, oh, it's raining acid kind of a thing, and I'm an expert in this particular area. He always says, no, I'm just speaking from my own experiences. And he's also got some qualifications in the area, and he's also I think his degree was in critical sociology or something like that, so he looks at things from a particular lens or a particular perspective, which he's absolutely allowed to do. But the point is that if you only let academics, for example, talk about particular issues in a particular way, then no ideas are going to manifest themselves in society, because we don't communicate things in a certain way which the public is going to engage with. So I give this example to my students every year. I show them 2 ads. One of them is from the HSE, and it's about testicular cancer, basically aimed at 18 to 25 year olds. Check yourself, the usual kind of story. One of them is a HSE ad. you know what the HSE ad is going to look like. Loads of text, loads of information, very, very undigestible. You're not going to engage with that content. Then I show them another piece of content, which is Deadpool, basically making a song and a dance about checking your balls, basically. And it's humorous, and people are going to engage with that because it's spoken to the audience that actually wants to consume it. And the exact same thing is important here. People like Blind Boy act as cultural intermediaries for the rest of us, and that can be dangerous because you've got people like Trump who act in a similar way because they've got the public voice. But the article was just dismissing what he does entirely, which is unfair. I think you need to, if we're going to have a proper conversation around how we speak about things like mental health or any issue like that within society, then you need to look at, okay, where the expert opinion comes from, but then also how do these ideas are actually communicated and absorbed by people and understood by people. That's a real conversation, not just he's not a medical expert, therefore he doesn't have the authority to talk about it.
That's the important thing. I think, like, look, all for everyone speaking their mind, and and as you said, he speaks on what he calls just his personal experiences, not so much an education or a long. He's not been working that career for years.
Hasn't got a doctorate in mental health. Yeah, exactly.
But as you said, it's the people then that follow is the big issue. They're taking what these people say as gospel, we'll say. So, like, we go down the route, the influencers, they're speaking on, yes, some of them are just speaking on lifestyle and fashion or whatever, but you've seen a lot of them recently, especially since COVID, delving into the whole area of mental health, and that is dangerous.
Yeah, no, again, it depends on, and this comes back to the individual who's consuming the information, right? You need to be able to distance yourself from what you're consuming. But the problem is a
lot of people are not clued in like we would be because we're working in this area.
You clued in, are you?
No, I wouldn't say. Thanks for calling me out. But a lot of young people coming on social, and we've talked about the whole idea of Instagram for kids and all these kind of stuff. They're being consumed and just lost in this world, and if they don't, they're not clued in, so they're not really thinking about what they're being told. And literally, someone's on the screen. It's like watching someone back on the Late Show years ago. They're on the telly. They must be credible.
Yeah, but again, that comes.
They have a few thousand followers. They must be credible.
But that again comes down to the how could I call it? Almost the lens at which you're communicating stuff. And again, it goes back to Blind Boy doesn't say that I am a mental health advocate. But whereas other people do, and that is an issue, because then you're talking about things that you don't know about. It's like people talking about, like, forget about mental health, because it's a more complex topic. Let's bring it back to the vaccine, anti-vax, for example. That kind of stuff. That stuff's very dangerous. Do you know what I mean? So, like, no, there's it's an interesting debate, but I suppose my main point here, without getting into nuts and bolts of it, is that by just crudely saying that this person, because they are not, or they don't have a PhD, or they're not a doctor in this, means that they cannot speak about it, it kind of dumbs down the conversation too much, when these people do have a really, really important role in the dissemination of, you can call it knowledge, you can call it opinion, you can call it whatever it is. But, like, if you take for blood, like Brezzy, for example, Brezzy put mental health on the map. He has no authority to be talking about that stuff. If you are to put that sort of barometer on him, that you need to have X amount of qualifications, do you know what I mean? So again, it dumbs down the argument too much to say you need to have this level of qualification to talk about this stuff. But even with the Rubber Bandits podcast, often what he'll do is he'll get in experts, and they'll actually have a discussion about it. So he's disseminating, because people can understand him, and he's decrypting the person that he's interviewing, and he brings it, and it's a great some of those interviews are great. And even there's other people who do a great. Tommy Tiernan, another great example of someone who isn't qualified to speak about anything really, in terms of he's in terms of his qualifications or anything like that, but is really, really good at interviewing someone who does know a lot of things, unpacking it, and really bringing out the communication from people. I think that's really important to bear in mind. I just think it's very, very important that, like we've talked about here, we had the whole thing last week about messing about the vaccinate Facebook. It is something that's going to have to be really, really looked at, because it is starting to get dangerous in terms of people with huge followings twisting people's minds sometimes. Oh, people are warped. Elon Musk, I saw there was a load of, I was scrolling through TikTok there during the week, the amount of people fucking in tears, I trusted Elon Musk. He said Dogecoin was the next big thing, and then he ditched it, and now I've lost all my savings.
Yeah.
And I'm like, at one point, I'm kind of like, you're a fucking moron. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, well, he's the richest man in the world. It's going in a certain direction. You're hearing all of this stuff. If you're not, and again, people are addicts as well, right? To gambling, essentially, which is what it is.
In there, we haven't talked about in a few weeks, but it's not just in the mental health. It's actually probably in you'd have people in the business world talking about it as well. But Mr. Vaynerchuk popped into my head there when you're talking about
hustle porn.
What?
Hustle porn. Hustle.
But
don't sleep and you will be successful.
Do it. Don't listen to your parents. But the whole idea of literally that of, of course you can set up a business. Of course you can do that. Of course you can do that. Just go and do it. Like,
you can't, because a lot of people aren't capable.
But that's the thing. That's another form of, look, some of the stuff he says, like coming from our point, if you actually break down what he's saying, yes, it's good. I just don't like the way he says it. But if in our area, like, people that are going into business that, get word of, follow this guy called Gary Vaynerchuk, he's warping a lot of heads in the wrong mindset, I suppose, to actually gear them up to work in the business world.
Yeah, like I had a big issue with a lot of stuff he was saying. Now, obviously, I've got my bias in that I teach in a university, but his big thing for a long time was you do not need to go to college to get a business education, and everything needs to be based on practical skills and so on and so forth. And that is someone who, okay, he's speaking from his experience, which he's absolutely entitled to. He didn't finish school, whatever the story was, and he became a multi-millionaire. That's fine. He's a dime a dozen. Presume that you are not going to drop out of school and become a multi-millionaire, because that doesn't happen to people.
A 3 million business from his father to turn into a 50 million business when the internet started. Like, that was...
To be fair, he did a very good job.
He did a really, really good job.
I wouldn't criticize him for that, but I think, he's at the dumbing it down since, where he's kind of after reframing that argument in terms of, well, college is good for some people. That's like, well, yeah, no shit, sir, Sherlock. Like, I mean, the universities...
Obviously, he wasn't getting paid to do too many college lectures.
Yeah. But, like, I mean, to be fair, like the universities were very bad at this. And it wasn't just a university thing, it was kind of a societal thing whereby you have to go to university to make it or whatever. Like, I'm firmly of the belief that a lot of people should not go to university. If you want to become a chef, then go and become a chef. Do you know what I mean? It's up to you what your talents are.
I like the way you put it, though. You put it before that, like, if you go to college, yes, you might not learn everything you need for the real world, but it's the critical thinking, that being a little bit more strategic and actually
people don't reckon. And I'd be the same. Like, I came through my college and you look back and go, oh, when am I ever going to use that? But we can see it. You take an 18-year-old who comes in to do a commerce degree or a business studies degree, and you show me that student 4 years later, and there is no comparison in terms of confidence, communication skills, how they think about things, how they analyse, how they research, how they write. Now people will turn around and they'll say, oh, well, I'm not an expert in fucking Facebook advertising. And I'm like, that's fine. If we spend 4 years telling you how to use Facebook advertising, then your university degree will be worthless after 12 months because the platform changes. So you're almost in many ways learning how to learn, if that makes any sense, and you're learning how to strategize and learning about the business acumen and so on and so forth without going into it. But I think and again, how did we get onto this conversation from talking about blind? This is a catastrophe. We need to we need a producer who says, no, you're talking about this today.
Press the button.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But
if anyone wants to apply for the role,
it's unpaid.
Looks good on the CV.
Looks good on the CV. Yeah.
You must have 5 years experience straight out of college.
We'll give you 5 years experience straight out of college. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Graduate salary, no possibility of improvement. Commission based, even though there's no sales involved. Graphic design, email marketing, and preferably Python coding experience.
And a full clean driving license.
And a full clean driving license as well. But no, look. Ultimately, and again, I think if you listen to all of Vaynerchuk's logs, for example. If you combine them all together, his point actually probably makes sense. You combine everything that he's saying. The problem is that people don't consume all of that; they consume the snippets.
Yes, which is what he's constantly putting out.
And you're led in a certain direction. But again, there is a certain impetus on the individual here as well. Like, I mean, you can't just follow false icons either in terms of what they're saying. Do you know what I mean? Like, what the hell are people listening to us for? Like, for God's sake.
God knows. Anyway, talking about listening to us. Any other news?
Oh, we're not done yet. Right. So one, I suppose, that came up this week was obviously the hackers demanding $20 million from the HSE after their systems were...
$20 million? Is it dollars, is it?
20 million. I looked at the internet before I came on here and it said dollars. Could be euros.
Could be.
Not including,
good luck to
not
them.
including VAT. Yeah.
With the HSE, they'll be a long time getting out of them.
Stop almighty. But it actually, I've always said this, like in an apocalyptic future, regardless of this, and it's terrible because people, they can't get appointments and all the rest of it. It's terrible, especially in the middle of a fucking pandemic. But I think it's quite fascinating, the reaction to something like a hack. Like something like medical information is very, very sensitive. And if certain people's medical information did get released into the internet, what actually happens? You know what I mean? Now, I know there's an injunction whereby the media aren't allowed to share it and spread it, which then comes back to your Twitter and your Facebook. Do they stop people sharing it as well? And that's really, really interesting, because if you can imagine, and okay, the HSE is a really extreme example because it is concerning people's health, and someone's health is something that is incredibly private to them. So the fact that this data can just be released in terms of, what medication you're on, what illnesses you have, whatever, there's loads of things that could be concerned there, is really, really kind of worrying. But then there's kind of and I remember having this conversation with someone ages ago, and it's a bit abstract now, but what happened, like, how does society react in a scenario whereby Facebook is hacked, all your private messages end up online? How do people react? Is there a societal contract, socially constructed, that we make between all of us going, no one's going to look at it?
Last week we had vaccinate Facebook. Now we have what? Secure Facebook.
Secure, fucking lock them off, fucking delete Facebook. But in that scenario, how do people, do people go digging around their ex's fucking messages or their buddies, or all this kind of stuff? Like, how does society react to a scenario where you can get information about someone?
I'd be interested to ask people, would they be more interested, or would they be more fearful of their medical records getting out, or their Facebook messages, or
that's a good question. A good question. Medical records for me anyway. That's an itch. People are going to be looking at this going, what were they talking about? I must listen. Yeah, that is interesting. That is an interest. That is fascinating. I can imagine the majority of people would rather their health records released. Yeah, absolutely,
definitely.
If you saw the director of corporate enforcement would be up and down every single person, that'd be very interesting. But it just goes to show you, like, and okay, all the stories about them using Microsoft XP and all that. Regardless of that, like, this stuff can happen. Like, Sony got hacked a number of years ago. Information can get hacked. It's just a case of how much of it is encrypted, how much of it can be associated with someone else and stuff like that. But I don't find the hacking stuff very, very interesting because I don't know enough about it. But what I find interesting is the societal reaction to a hack, and how does people behaviour possibly change or whatever. Like,
to me, I haven't heard anyone talking about it in terms of a worrying way. It's more so it's a pain in the arse not having to deal with the HSE at the moment. Do you know not many people are up in arms going, please don't.
But that's because it's not really happened before. That's the thing. It's not like there hasn't been a situation in Ireland really where, like, okay, names and addresses, fine, bit worrying, you get over. But when it's
Ireland,
you and it's something, when it's you and something, else, that's the kind of thing that I think would worry people. I think they released some data of people just proved that they had it. I think everyone on that list was already dead. I think just to prove that they had the data more so than anything else. So, but if they were to say, "Oh yeah, we're going to release the data of everyone under the age of 25 next week," then would there be a panic? Do you know? And then it's how do you access
it's like the vaccination rollout. We'll do this week. We'll do 25 to 35.
And then it's how do people access it? Like, if they release that on dark web, or they release it on a website, newspapers aren't allowed to publish it. Facebook ban it. Then you have to go and actually access it. And then if people don't know how to access it, all that type of stuff. So again, I think that whole area of the reacting stuff is quite interesting. I might read a paper on it. That's interesting.
Do keep you busy for a couple of months.
Well, yeah.
I think what's also scary is the fact that they actually said this came from one computer. I think I read somewhere
that's always the way though these days. Like, so every computer, every network is linked. Like, you know, so you get in one door. That's it. Like, you know. Yeah. And it's very easy to do as well. Like, I'd have it quite often with
You'd obviously have a lot of security with your job, like.
Oh, we would, yeah. But I mean, like, but in terms of getting access to, like, my email is readily available on the university website. Like, is it that difficult for somebody
Don't be giving ideas now for someone to hack.
If the hackers have not thought of this already, then they're not very good hackers. But like, I mean, this idea of like
publish your
let's say
education.
I want advice on whether I should do this program or not. I've attached my CV. You know?
Yeah.
Is it that simple? Now obviously there's virus protection and there's all that kind of stuff as well. But ultimately, if you can get to source, very, very easy for people to open emails, like, you know.
Yeah. We'll see what rolls out in the next couple of weeks. See if someone gets their it's like Dr. Eva from Austin Powers, their $20 million or whatever.
$20 million. Well, they've said that they won't anyway. I think that is the right thing, to be honest with you, because I think there's a stat out there that in 92% of cases where the ransom is paid, the data isn't actually returned anyway.
Of course.
So
it's not like it's digital. It's not like it's
would
going
the
to be.
hackers not be nice?
I'll post
would
it
they
to
not be
you.
high snacker? Would they not do a thing where you leave a review on them afterwards on Trustpilot?
Well done,
They were
lads.
5-star hackers. Great bunch to deal with. Gave us our data back. No matters at all.
Very good. And as exciting for me.
Exciting, not so much. But like everything we talk about, really.
Yeah.
But I think, again, trends in markets and stuff like that, and just me looking and going, oh, lads, what are you doing? But AB InBev, who obviously own...
What? Who?
InBev.
All right, okay.
So they own
you
Budweiser.
A couple of letters there thrown together.
No. So,
actually thought you messed up Airbnb.
No, we spoke with them last week. But they have released a Bud Light seltzer.
Can't wait to try it.
Can't you?
Bud
Fruity flavour.
Rotten.
As opposed to... Oh, no, this is a seltzer. It must be
Posh.
good. It must be good. It's alcoholic water, is all it fucking is.
Yeah.
I tried a Brewdog one actually, and I was like, "What is the point of this? It's sparkling alcohol water." You'd rather drink the toilet duct.
I seen the branding for it. Totally, it's not what you expect from Budweiser. Like, it's totally different. Like, it's kind of very clean and fresh, and But it actually reminded me of their old cans. Their old branding.
Oh, the silver and the red.
The silver,
yeah.
It reminded me like as if they were going back to that.
Interesting.
That's what it reminded me of. Yeah, but look, all the alcohol brands are being innovative at the moment. So
they are. But what's interesting is Nielsen actually released stats saying that they are forecasting that particular product category in the UK is going to grow from 5.6 million pounds in 2020 to over 600 million pounds in the next 4 years, which to me seems insane.
So that's the next trend they're saying, basically.
Yeah, like, are people gone that soft?
I hope you're not insulting anyone now.
Sorry for insulting you for drinking your seltzer and get an umbrella in your drink whilst you're at it. Like, it's like the thing. I think I fucking told this story a couple of weeks ago. I thought it was very, very funny. I'll tell it again. Around the time the UK opened up, the pubs there a number of weeks ago, they're a bit ahead of us. But there was an image went up online of a bloke and all his mates, and they all had pints, and one of the lads had a strawberry daiquiri with fucking stuff sticking up all over the place, as a strawberry daiquiri is, lovely strawberry daiquiri. And some woman, of course, came in and said, "Oh, you bloody pansy fairy, blah, blah, blah." Of course, if it was the other way around, there'd be unholy war. But the amount of big burly men on Twitter that started replying to her and go, "You enjoy your strawberry daiquiri, son. You enjoy your strawberry daiquiri." I thought it was very funny. I thought it was brilliant. No, I cannot wait for... I think it's called a Treasure Island or something. It's from Clancy's there in Cork City. It's beautiful. It's the fruitiest drink of all time, full of alcohol. Brilliant. Umbrellas everywhere. Like, it's superb.
Look at a picture.
I've been locked indoors for 15 months. Like, 15 months I've been waiting for a cocktail in a glass.
Very good.
Not a fucking Parrot Bay fucking squeezy bottle.
Squeezy packets of cocktails.
For the record, I've never had Parrot Bay squeezy fucking cocktails.
I think it's interesting actually to follow the seltzer thing. Like, I always enjoy watching the drinks and the trends. So like we had the whole whiskey thing. Obviously we're coming out now of the gin, and maybe seltzer now is the next one to kind of watch.
But I presume, and I don't know this, I'm guessing, but I presume the seltzer one is very much gauged towards the fitness, health, well-being.
Possibly, yeah.
Because I presume, again, if it's alcoholic water, I presume it doesn't have that many calories.
I haven't tried it, but there's been that brand's been fairly prominent there in the last couple of months. Is it something White Claw? Is it
White Claw? Yeah.
White Claw. Have you tried it? I haven't tried it.
I think I may have, and it was awful.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of the kind of, we'll say, influencers kind of getting obviously free promotion to try it out and promote it, but they're doing they seem to be everywhere. You know, in a good way. They're not too much in your face, but they seem to be rolled it out fairly well. So maybe that's not what I'm not sure what is that a seltzer, is that?
White Claw.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
So maybe that's the next trend that's coming down the road.
No, hopefully not.
One thing I've never seen in terms of trends of drinks, I haven't personally noticed it, but we haven't had a rum one yet. You know, there's been no real push towards rum.
There was Captain Morgan there when you were young.
That was just Captain Morgan. There was no real push on the rum category, like, you know, so that might be something coming down the line.
Do you know what?
Because there's only a few Irish companies that actually make rum. There's not too many of them.
Yeah, no, that is interesting. That is. To be fair, I've always loved to. And I've never done it. I've never worked with an alcohol brand as such. But I've always liked to. How can you change the culture around a particular drink? Another one actually that I always thought was fascinating was nowadays you go into a coffee shop and you've got frappuccino, macchiato, whatever, and there's fucking chocolate and ice and there's all sorts going on. There's never been a push for a kind of a gourmet or a kind of a craft kind of a tea. Does that make sense? And I thought that was always fascinating.
What makes it a gourmet tea?
I don't know, but like, they know, but like, it's like, what makes a gourmet
Barry's?
coffee? Like, oh no, Barry's is amazing. But what I'm surprised by is that none of them have tried to create like a really premium or a different type of tea in that. But like, I know you've got all the flavoury tea and all the rest of it.
There is a company up the country now. They're actually kind of doing. I can't think of what they're called now, but up in Ireland somewhere, they're doing a big push on retail at the moment. But they're a new tea brand basically kind of hitting the market. You know, it's not horrible tea or anything like that. It's tea. So
no, I don't know. I don't mean a horrible. I mean an actual proper tea, like not a min. I swear to God, right? I went home to the family home a number of weeks ago. They let me back. Yeah. Just for the returns. Yeah, I know. I swear to God, like, this is now like I'm single Pringle living in my apartment. I've got Barry's and I've got coffee. I don't have herbal tea, so I boiled a kettle. Yeah. And I just grabbed the tea bag, as one does, put it in the cup, and I poured the hot water into the cup, and I fucking roared at the parents, going, "Who the fuck put Ribena in the kettle?" No, it wasn't someone put Ribena in the kettle. It was that I had put like a raspberry tea bag into the cup, and I had no fucking idea. I was like, and I was there going like, who the fuck put Ribena in the fucking tea? Like, what's going on here? Like, I leave for 10 months or whatever the story is, and you're already
standards changed.
Oh, stop! But yeah, no, that was another. So yeah. What was I talking about?
I don't know.
A craft tea of some description, or a kind of a premium tea. That's what I mean.
Yeah,
a premium
gourmet tea.
A gourmet tea. It's been a long week.
There's an opening in the market there now, and Dave is going to do free marketing for a year if you're interested in
gourmet tea.
Yeah,
we'll do it. We'll conquer the world. But it's like even the Frank and Anna stuff, like it's cheap, but they've tried to make it more premium as opposed to the normal. Like you go into most garages and it's the pump, like with black coffee basically.
Well, Frank and Anna is a Musgrave brand.
Exactly, yeah. But they've tried to make it more premium. Is my point.
Well, like look, I'm biased coming from a coffee company on this one, but what I liked about Frank and Anna's when it first hit the market was I actually thought they'd done a really, really good job, and I thought it was almost like, you know, a local company was bought out and it was just pumped into all these retail. They've done a nice job. It was a
really good project, yeah. From a
but
branding
I think now they've ruined it. They're selling the cups. They're selling the takeaway cups. They're selling absolutely every. But hang on,
but isn't that what every craft coffee company does, or a lot of them?
No, but it's different to doing it themselves.
I walked into one the last day and there was a coffee company selling hoodies. It was like, you're selling fucking coffee. What are you sending me a hoodie for?
But inside in their own store.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Whereas this now was made look like an artisan coffee company was put into retail basically, but next thing it's being pumped out.
But that's the point, right? That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to make it look like craft artisan.
They went too far with it. They made it too silly.
I don't know. I think they're doing well. I think they're doing very, very well. Like if I'm looking for a coffee, I won't go for a Frank and Honest. But if I have a choice of a Frank and Honest,
who would you go for?
The equivalent, huh?
Who would you go for?
Who'd I go?
Careful now,
we can't. There's sponsorship opportunities available in the podcast, so I can flog the brand. Yeah,
There's only one getting it, though.
That's it. Yeah. Oh, your coffee's lovely. You made me a cup before we came on air, to be fair.
There we go. We're on air, are we? Live on air.
Live on air. Oh, would you wrap it up, would you? It's been a long, horrible podcast. No structure, no production value whatsoever. My throat is killing me.
So we'll wrap it up with a couple of key lines. Don't do it on post. If you're looking for a job producing a show, we're interested in taking applications. Any company out there that wants to set up a gourmet tea brand, Dave is offering his consultancy fees.
Premium tea.
No, you said gourmet. I like that one. And apart from that, we have a guest on next week actually. That's the last key line, I suppose. God help him.
The head brewer from Barry's, is it?
Head brewer from Barry's.
Brewer.
Master
Brewer.
brewer. Guys, thanks very much for listening. You can follow us on social media and keep up to date, and we'll talk to you next week. Take care.
Good luck.